The first question that we have was from Coral, and Coral wanted to know how to care for her string-off plants. So I have a couple here to show you. They're still quite small because I have grown all of these from cuttings. Here's my petals, and I also have some rather lovely variegated petals and some hearts. There's a couple of different types of hearts in there. What people tend to do with these plants is love them to death, basically. People just keep giving them too much water and they end up rotting. So what I see is maybe some petals and they're just a bunch of mush on top of the soil. And I'm like, that plant's been overwatered. And if you've done it, don't worry, because we all do it. Everybody does it. It's so common. So what I would say is try and underwater string-off plants rather than overwater. These petals are okay at the minute because I watered them recently. But what happens when they're really thirsty is they sort of go wrinkly, they dry up and they wrinkle into themselves like a raisin or something, and that's when you know it needs some water. And the string-off type plants, so your petals, your hearts, these don't want to be watered until they are bone dry. So just resist watering, because honestly your plant will thank you for it. These are like succulent type plants, so you need to think of them that way rather than normal foliage type houseplants who need a bit more water. And going along that route, these plants do need quite a lot of light. I have mine in the window, but it's not a south facing window, so that's okay. If you put them in a full sun south facing window, they could get burnt, so any other window would be fine. Or if it's a south facing room, you can put them a bit further back on a shelf. But they do need lots and lots of bright indirect light to make them grow happily, and barely any watering. Trust me. Trust me, you're better to neglect them and like barely ever water them, which is what I do, than give them too much water and destroy them. If you do happen to have overwatered them, you need to cut all the rot away. So if you've still got some stringy bits left, cut it away from the plant, cut it away from the rot, and propagate it. You can propagate it by laying it on top of the soil, or you can propagate it by putting it in water. So yeah, just watch your watering with this one. If you're really not sure about watering and when to water, you can get yourself a moisture probe. I have got one of these recently, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Basically, you stick it in the soil and it'll tell you whether it's dry or not. But I can tell by the weight of these when I pick them up if they need watered or not. So they go really light when they're dry, and they're very heavy when they're wet. So that's some good tips on string-off plants. I do have a string of dolphins here that has not been receiving enough light, so you can see I don't know if you can see that. The growth is coming in quite small. It's getting etoliated, it's quite leggy. And that's what's going to happen if you don't give these string-off plants enough light. Remember, they are succulent type plants, so they're going to like lots of bright light and not a lot of watering. So that's how to care for string-off plants. I hope you found that helpful, Coral.